And so they scheduled this game, and it was quite a bit of publicity at the time.
Already
It
tried
featured
it.
a Heisman Award winner, Angelo Bertelli, a quarterback Notre
Grounded
Dame,
2 is good.
and one of the top
Zombie Army
running backs, Bill Osmanski of the Chicago Bears. So it got a lot of press attention at the time. I go into sort of this first real exploration of this game. I've got the first photos, first-hand accounts, and so forth. So that none of this is really
Grounded
out
2.
or very, very, very little.
Go to G.
And
they
it got
vampires
a lot of publicity for a couple days in the U.S. press. It was dubbed the Atomic Bowl.
Grounded.
This was back in the days when all the bowl games were played on New Year's Day. It was what you did on New Year's Day.
Yeah, I know this game, babe.
So this was played on New Year's Day, 1946, and got a lot of early publicity. And then for some reason, it got
this is the new one.
history. The media never printed any photos.
The old one, yeah.
They never returned Nagasaki itself.
Well, Max plays it, and a few other
this
friends
game kind of disappeared. The star and the players never talked about it with their children. I talked to several of the children of the players, and it really kind of disappeared in history.
Zombie Army will be a fun one. Trust me, you're gonna like it. The slow-mo headshots are too much fun, Kayla.
Or not, it wasn't that important in the scheme of things. How we
I guess. But at least it's installing fast.
Oh my god, he's with somebody new.
Kayla, quick question.
Yes.
Is your dad gonna see us today?
I tried calling him, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise I'm gonna have to make plans for myself.
Doing what?
Glasses.
What do you mean?
I'm gonna go to Microsoft with my dad to pick out a pair of glasses because our insurance is different now. I don't get
Where's that at?
It's in Redmond. You can come with me.
I might not, just because, like, if
you don't want to pick my next sunglasses?
Well, no, it's not that. It's just, like, if we weren't going, because, like, the original plan for the zoo and stuff was for tomorrow, so I know that, like, if things fall through today, that my dad will just want to do it tomorrow.
Okay, well, then just tell him that it's going to have to fall through today, because I'm going to tell my dad. He needs to know now.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can meet either.
I'll just call the Wicked Witch and see if she answers.
God.
I just want to see if he's still there, because, like, I don't know why he wouldn't answer if he wasn't.
Because he's in jail.
Maybe, who knows. I have ways of finding that out, too.
Hope your mom's still breathing. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's why I said that. I hope she's breathing.
I mean, she's probably just hung over his shit. So it's like...
Or in a ditch.
Let's see. What's my mom's address? What county is she in?
And we should say they had to play two-hand touch because of both like shards of glass on the field, but also there was a sense of like there could be, because of maybe the radiation fallout.
Right.
Was the game itself a way to sort of say, like, I mean, was there rumors, or, you know, the U.S. government had a sense of what the implications of this radiation was.
County, or it's...
Hey, do you remember where that laptop is, Kayla? The blue one?
No. I know it's... Isn't it in, like, that backpack?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is. I know where it is.
Yeah, that's the only...
This too. I'm gonna start using this.
Things like that. And then, of course, when they came back to the States, these reports continued.
It's gonna be good for my car now that I have this little phone.
Cancer and so
Yeah, I got pretty
so,
even without it, it's just so you don't, when you hit your brakes, your phone doesn't just go flying, you know?
Compensation
Yeah,
many
exactly.
years later, 50 years later.
That,
so you can't, it's not like it's,
it doesn't really go
with most things with radiation, you can't say, X caused Y.
Unless you're watching a video,
certainly the symbolism playing a game right at where you had just wiped out 75,000 people. I guess the message could be different for different people. But it's certainly when people hear about it today, they're horrified. Just to mention another kind of incident that kind of goes with it away was about 3 months after the atomic bomb.
Okay, I'll feed him in a second.
And I write about this in my book and in the film. The military sponsored a atomic bomb.
That was my next question, because that's
beauty pageant in Nagasaki. I mean, Japanese women, and they had Miss Atomic Bomb beauty pageant in Nagasaki. So, there certainly doesn't sound like there was a sense of we should really turn the page, quietly go about our business here.
News channels stoke chaos to sell ads. Social media sucks our blood for data brokers. The planet burns because of corporate interests, etc., etc. Talking about problems feels like an act of redundancy. Painful, maddening redundancy. Because these problems keep leading right back to the same place, over and over. Once you've followed these roads enough times, that destination becomes grotesquely familiar. It's like you've been there before. You've arrived at the same conclusion before.
Open the safe. Now, everybody needs to shut up and stay calm on the floor. You were talking, huh?
News channels stoke chaos to sell ads. Social media sucks our blood for data brokers. The planet burns because of corporate interests, etc., etc. Talking about problems feels like an act of redundancy. Painful, maddening redundancy. Because these problems keep leading right back to the same place, over and over. Once you've followed these roads enough times, that destination becomes grotesquely familiar. It's like you've been there before. You've arrived at the same conclusion before. It's a bizarre feeling. You stand there certain you've been following a new road, a road you've never seen before, and yet there you are, the same pit of mud you were last time, and the same one you realize you will be in next time. We as Americans call this place our home. This place powers our civilization, but so many of the issues that plague us in our day-to-day lives insist on bringing us back to this place. This place, of course, is capitalism. And yet to imagine another system is almost impossible. Capitalism is part of our identity, not just in America, but increasingly around the world. And whenever capitalism presents us with problems, as it often does, we just throw more capitalism at them. Why is this? Why are we so stuck in this system that it seems absolutely impossible to even conceive of an alternative? Well, there is an answer to that, a pretty definitive one, in fact. And we will get to it. But before that, it's important to dispel some of the myths about capitalism as we know it today. There is this idea that capitalism somehow evolved from some natural human tendency, that humans are instinctually driven towards the profit motive, and capitalism is just a name for something that has always existed in one way or another for a very long time. It always has been, and it always will be. Knowingly or not, most people are citing the early capitalist Adam Smith when they make this argument. In the 1800s, Smith saw people trading goods for profit and thought this was just human nature. He said people trade things for other things, and then someone comes up with money, and we naturally get to capitalism, whether we try to or not. But Smith just made this up. It never happened. There's no historical or anthropological record that indicates the concept of money emerged from barter. In reality, Smith was already living in a capitalist system. He was just observing the things going on around him. In truth, throughout almost all of human history, resources were exchanged in gift-giving systems based on personal favors. You gave me some fish one time, so here's some milk. This idea that capitalism existed before it was named is simply untrue. People like Adam Smith still say capitalism is natural, that it caters to our human nature in a unique way. This is true. It's also a very bizarre, kind of disgusting way to justify a capitalist system. Greed is certainly within our nature. A desire for intense personal success, even if at the expense of other people, that could be in someone's nature. Capitalism rewards these things, but I don't think anyone would say these are good things. Qualities are not good just because they could be considered natural. Our economic system should not be set up to maximize the darkest parts of human nature. Do we really want the greediest people at the very top of our society? In what world does this sound like a good plan? Still, you will often hear people say that capitalism works. It may not be perfect, but it works. People have jobs mostly and can go about their daily lives. We have iPhones and computers and cars. Well, the people saying that are usually people like me, people who have good jobs, were born into decent circumstances, and came into this world with a not insignificant set of advantages. For those people, yes, capitalism works. I think if you asked people who work 50 hours a week and still live in project housing, they would not be so positive. 8 million people die every year because they can't access healthcare. Over 1 million die because they can't afford good drinking water. There have been millions of deaths in wars fought over material resources. European colonizers killed 50 million native people in the Americas. The British Empire killed 165 million Indians in the name of capitalism. 42 million people in the world's richest economy live in poverty every single day. We have dot-com bubbles, bank bailouts, auto bailouts, stimulus checks. The American capitalist economy is so unstable that every few years it threatens to collapse and can only be fixed by huge amounts of government spending. Does this sound like something that really works? I mean, if capitalism itself was a business, it would have been shut down long ago. Imagine a world where Coca-Cola products kill millions of people every year and require billions of dollars in regular cash injections just to stay afloat. Capitalism cannot even pass the test of its own existence. This is all to say, if capitalism works, it sure is costly to make it do so.
There's a bunch of free stuff for this game too.
Still, people like to say that capitalism has lifted millions out of poverty, so it's the best option. The implication here is that capitalism is working well for the poorest people in the world. But I think if you asked the poorest people in the world, they would not say in general that things are working well. But there are really nice graphs that show us how capitalism has reduced poverty. Specifically, this entire narrative comes from one place. This graph that shows the percent of people living in poverty over time. People will point to this graph and say, look, things are getting better. Capitalism is great. Let's keep on doing it. But this graph basically sucks for 3 reasons. Bad history, bad economics, and misleading data. In 2023, a group of researchers examined this graph and the capitalism eliminates poverty narrative. They studied 5 major regions of the world and looked at human welfare signals in these places over time. The results of their study were pretty clear. Quote, in all regions studied, incorporation into the capitalist world system was associated with a decline in wages to below subsistence, a deterioration in human stature, and an upturn in premature mortality. In parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, key welfare metrics have still not recovered. Let's talk about why that is. This graph starts with the idea that 90% of the world's population lived in poverty before the year 1800. The graph's foundational idea is that virtually all of humanity for all of history was starving and destitute until the 1900s when capitalism saved us all. This contradicts about a century of academia on capitalism and human welfare. It's just not true. Historically, laborers and working people have been able to feed themselves and their families pretty easily without capitalism. In fact, based on the major indicators of welfare, extreme poverty has historically been really, really rare in Europe, Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and China. Notably, the exceptions to this have been during periods of famines, wars, and systematic dispossession of land, most often caused by capitalism. Secondly, the pro-capitalist argument and the graph also hinge on the idea that more wealth in a country means a better quality of life. But this isn't true. You see, the graph is based entirely on income. However, personal income...
Gun left.
What are the rules here? We must be engaged. Do what they do. If they get out, you get out.
Wait. Get out of the car.
Move again. Never see photos. Don't move! Move again. No.
Compas. Suelte la pistola. Mírela. Pregunta, paisano. ¿Quieren morir?
This has got to be on the front page of every newspaper in America.
No, it won't. They won't even make the papers in El Paso. Gun.
During periods of famines, wars, and systematic dispossession of land, most often caused by capitalism. Secondly, the pro-capitalist argument and the graph also hinge on the idea that more wealth in a country means a better quality of life. But this isn't true. You see, the graph is based entirely on income. However, personal income has not always determined your quality of life. The graph ignores subsistence farming, foraging, access to common food supplies, and other things that were historically really important parts of life. For example, if subsistence farms are destroyed by colonists and replaced with cotton plantations, GDP goes up. But in that area, access to food and thus quality of life plummets significantly. This isn't just a what-if scenario. From 1870 to 1921, as British people were colonizing India, the Indian GDP per capita increased by 27%. So surely all of these people would have been pulled from their wretched lives of starvation, right? Not quite. During that time, British policies induced famines killing tens of millions of people. The average Indian life expectancy collapsed by 20%. GDP was soaring, but this was the most disastrous period of history, maybe in Indian history. This nice little graph just kind of sweeps all that under the rug. Another issue is that this graph uses the global poverty line of $1.90. When it was calculated, this number was based on an average of the 15 poorest countries in the world. So it's kind of meaningless to other countries. The 190 number is universally accepted to be far too low. This level of income is still associated with extreme calorie and nutrient deficits and an inability to access basic goods. I mean, just think about it. Could you live on $1.90 per day? Only in the absolute poorest countries is this possible. We all know poor people exist in every country. To correct for this, economic historians have developed an alternative approach. They use price data to calculate a basic needs poverty line. At this poverty line, people can consume an adequate diet, all from the cheapest available foods. The poverty line also accounts for non-food items like clothing and housing. So when we use the 190 figure, China reduced poverty from 66% in 1990 to 19% in 2005 through capitalist reforms. This looks pretty good. However, if we measure incomes against the more comprehensive BNPL, Chinese poverty increased during this same time, from 0.2% to 24%, with a peak of 68% in 1995. Uh-oh. Most strikingly, the BNPL reflects surging prices of food as China dismantled its socialist food provisioning system. Lastly, this graph conveniently begins in the year 1820. But capitalism has existed since the 1500s. During the missing 300 years, capitalist growth depended on horrific processes, including the en masse enslavement of Africans and the colonial genocide of Indians and Native Americans. These processes caused much of the global poverty that capitalism, quote, solved. Indeed, if we use this graph's method for calculating poverty, during these first 300 years of capitalist growth, global poverty went way, way up. By using an arbitrary cutoff date, this graph makes itself look a whole lot better than it really is. And let's not forget, the graph says that thanks to capitalism, people earn more money in a day, and that's good. But capitalism is basically the only reason we would need to earn that money. Say someone puts a gun to your head and makes you eat a bunch of salt until you get really thirsty. Then they give you a glass of water. You're really going to thank that person for quenching your thirst? I don't think so. Still, none of these so-called arguments really explain why we are addicted to capitalism. They are reasons people use to justify this addiction, but none of them are the true reason that America is so content in the arms of this system. The truth, unfortunately, is a lot more brutal. There exists a phenomenon called capitalist realism. This idea says that we have gotten to a place within capitalism that we cannot possibly fathom any other system of economics. In capitalist realism, we have all accepted capitalism as the end point for economic development. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. This is capitalist realism. But this delusion exists for a good reason. Capitalism has created a Truman Show for all of us. We live, breathe, and sleep money. It motivates everything we do. It's suffocating. Our lives have become capitalist enterprises. See, life is no longer a sequence of time, but a disparate series of jobs and hobbies that need to assemble in some way that is profitable. Of course, we can't see past capitalism when we engage in it with every waking moment. Very few people would defend capitalism in its entirety. Instead, what we all hear again and again is that capitalism isn't perfect, but every other system is worse. This is a trick. With millions dying, our environment collapsing, and an insurmountably large wealth gap, even capitalists themselves cannot realistically defend capitalism as a wholly wonderful system. So instead, they pivot. They categorize all other systems as horrible. The dialogue becomes, we may not live in a great system, but you should be glad we don't live in a terrible system. This does not make sense in theory, nor does it make sense in reality.
No.
8 million people die from lack of healthcare each year, but at least we don't massacre citizens like Stalin did. We carpet bomb the Middle East for oil, but at least we don't kill people like Mao Zedong. American citizens die homeless on the streets, but at least we don't have those big, ugly Soviet apartments. Even if capitalism is terrible, imagine how much worse everything else must be. They say all we have to do is lower our standards and we will be saved from tyranny and suffering. This ends the conversation, the exploration of new options before it even has a chance to start. So we are all convinced that capitalism is the absolute. When we begin to see holes in the fabric of capitalism, well, the system has a solution for that too. Anti-corporate sentiment is one of the things that capitalism is best at selling. Billionaires finance movies about how evil billionaires are.
Hey! We are bullshit.
We sympathize with these movies or books or t-shirts or TV shows. We live through them. These things perform our anti-capitalist duties for us, so we can continue to consume without guilt. Meanwhile, those capitalists who produce them get to placate any anti-capitalist sentiment, all while fueling their own system with each Wall-E or Succession or whatever. We are incentivized to place hatred of capitalism in a nice little box and put it away. Imagine a middle manager, a cool middle manager, if you will, one who lambasts the bureaucratic procedural nature of his work. He disavows it as stupid and needlessly complicated. His inward behavior is sensibly defiant, but capitalism means his outward actions cannot match this behavior. He must still perform his mundane bureaucratic tasks day in and day out, lest he be without a job and fall into homelessness. He's trapped. His actions can never really match his beliefs. Capitalism has become such an amorphous, complicated mess that we don't really know what to do with our anger. Our capitalism is a Kafkaesque nightmare. We live to earn money, and we have to spend that money to live. Even expressing hatred of a capitalist system requires participation in that system. This video, for example, was not free to make, and indeed, like the aforementioned manager, I generate some measly amount of income from it. We are forced to hold on to radically opposed identities throughout our lives, days, and even hours. We can scream into the world, but there can be no hope because the world is an abyss. There's nothing to scream at.
Here you go.
No one knows who's to blame, and no one knows who can even do anything. Our bureaucratic mess of capitalism means the concepts of right, wrong, cause, and effect blend into some nonsensical ether. Every minute of every hour, we are blinded, suffocated, and motivated by capitalism all at once. At the end of it all, we are filled with a rage that has no direction, so we just let our anger flicker and die. Our feelings and frustrations remain blunted by the necessities of everyday life. For those lucky few who win at capitalism, they enter the abhorrent bunker of the corporation. This bunker protects them from those on the outside dying to get in. Inside this bunker, there is much work to be done, processes to oversee, protocols to follow. Whether or not they want to hear the discourse outside of their walls, they will not. They cannot. They are blinded to the world outside of their bunker. And so, the victors rot. They rot comfortably inside of their steel bunker. As the problems of capitalism continue to rear their heads, those in power do not acknowledge that these problems are intrinsically linked to capitalism as a system. You will hear politicians blame every issue in the world for climate change, besides the system on which it is built. Instead, they say we just need to throw more capitalism at these problems. They say private enterprise should be trusted to end world hunger and fix our environment. Part of our profit will go to saving the planet. All you need to do is buy more stuff. And so, the loop is complete. You might be familiar with the idea of late-stage capitalism. A lot of what I just described might ring that bell. Today, late-stage capitalism is a pretty abstract concept. People attribute all kinds of different issues specifically to, quote, late-stage capitalism. Today, it's pretty much used as slang, but late-stage capitalism has a strict definition. This cold, crushing feeling has its roots in academia. Werner Sombart was a German economist in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Sombart was not a big fan of capitalism, but he was a huge fan of Karl Marx. Sombart wrote the book Der moderne Kapitalismus, which contained the first instance of the phrase late capitalism. In this book, Sombart divided capitalism into 3 eras: proto-capitalism, advanced capitalism, and late capitalism. Sombart said that capitalism survived on a cycle of boom and bust. He said that the system had to create wealth and then devour that wealth so as to make room for more. This was called creative destruction. Sombart believed it was not sustainable. Eventually, he said it would lead to, quote, late capitalism. Broadly speaking, late-stage capitalism refers to a point at which the system serves only a few wealthy people at the reckless expense of the majority. At this point, the rich siphon money from the middle class, eliminating it until our society is only the elites and the impoverished. After late capitalism, the exploited would eventually rise up, destroy everything, start a new system. So, you may be wondering, when does that start? I would love to make this video and say capitalism is on its way out. It's dying. Current polls could even help me make that point. A recent Axios poll showed 54% of Gen Z have a negative view of capitalism. One 2020 survey by the marketing and PR firm Edelman showed that 57% of people worldwide believe capitalism as it exists today does more harm than good. I would love to point to these increasingly negative feelings and say this is a signal that the end is near. I could say that there are socialist politicians in Congress. The self-declared Democratic Socialist almost, perhaps should have been, a presidential nominee.
No, I'll be right back.
I could run with this and say it's a signal of capitalism's imminent demise. But people have been predicting the end of capitalism for some 200 years now.
I know, but
And
that's
yet,
on my
we
other
carry on.
computer.
The capitalist system seems to only consume and grow larger just for the sake of unending growth itself. Still, I am hopeful. I don't know when capitalism will fall, but I can say with the utmost certainty that capitalism will fall. This is a when, not an if. All economic systems die. Capitalism is no exception, and there's no reason it would be. We were hunter-gatherers, and then we were farmers. Then we had a slave economy, and after that, feudalism. Now we exist in capitalism. Those that are benefited most by capitalism will desperately cling on to it just like it currently clings on to us. But eventually, they too will fail, and society will move on to something greater. Selfishly, I do hope this change happens at a time when it is relevant to me and the world that I live in. But who knows? Whether in a year or a century, the death of capitalism will come like the death of seasons. The leaves will die and fall to the ground, where they will be crushed into nothing as society walks onward into the future. And indeed, there are a lot of theories about what will replace capitalism. Perhaps it'll be socialism or some other kind of centralized economy. Maybe we will go into a period of degrowth, where humanity collectively slows down its consumption of resources for the greater good.
What?
There could be some kind of participatory economy wherein people have true agency to decide how they interface with an economic system. Or maybe we'll just revert to some kind of agrarian permaculture economy. Ultimately, while maybe it's interesting to think about, I don't know if predicting a future after capitalism has any real value right now. There are steps that we need to take before we fantasize about a post-capitalist reality. One thing at a time. Karl Marx, of all people, warned against developing recipes for the kitchens of the future. I believe that one day humanity will see beyond the horizon of capitalism and capitalist realism. Throughout history, mankind has fixed flawed systems. Serfs killed their lords. Royal families have been brought to their knees and shot in their basements. These past conquests can signal a new, brighter future for humanity. There's opportunity to be had, and capitalism can be defeated even when we feel trapped by darkness. Just need to turn on the light.
Either way, it works.
There are new items in the Horses store. Check it out at www.horses.land. In the fall of 1849, the famed poet Edgar Allan Poe disappeared for 7 days. During this time, no one heard from him. No one even saw him. Today, historical records still offer no information as to his whereabouts. For this week, Poe was truly a ghost. He just disappeared. But on October 4th, 1849, Edgar Allan Poe emerged. He was found nearly comatose, muttering nonsense, his body laid down on a wooden plank supported by 2 barrels. He was wearing someone else's clothing and his body was paralyzed. Upon being transported to the hospital, Poe spent 3 days conversing with hallucinations. On his final night, he screamed the name Reynolds over and over before dying at sunrise. What happened during those 7 days? What or who killed Edgar Allan Poe? Edgar Allan Poe showed up to his friend John Sartain's house in Philadelphia on July 2nd, 1849. Poe was a mess. Sartain described him as being pale and haggard. He was nervous, fidgety, and distraught. Poe was also drunk. Edgar Allan Poe entered Sartain's home with an eerie declaration. "I have come to you for protection and a refuge. It will be difficult for you to believe what I have to tell, that such things could be in this 19th century. It is necessary that I remain concealed for a time. Can I stay here with you?" Without any questions, the kind-hearted Sartain assured Poe he could stay as long as he needed, and that his friend would be safe. Poe recollected that days earlier he was on a train from Brooklyn when he overheard some men plotting to kill him. The plan, Poe said, was to murder him and toss his body from the train car. Poe said he snuck off at the next stop before making his way to Philadelphia. Sartain firmly believed Poe to be hallucinating the whole affair, and he asked the author why these men wanted to murder him. Poe replied, "A woman trouble." Indeed, this may have been true. After the recent death of his wife, Poe had proposed to a woman named Sarah Royster. Sarah had 3 brothers. It had been suggested that these brothers, disapproving of the marriage, were keen to end it by any means possible. So they got Poe enormously drunk at a tavern and then followed him onto a train. There they began to hatch their plan in earnest. Poe's wedding proposal is fact, but the murderous theory is pure conjecture, authored by one Poe biographer on the wings of pure imagination. In any case, Poe believed that he had overheard such a plot on the train. So at Sartan's, he did not think the men would stop their pursuit. He suggested he should just kill himself. Instead, Sartan encouraged Poe to shave off his mustache, as the change could make him less recognizable to would-be murderers. Sartan and Poe left the home and went to a local tavern. En route, Poe further described another story. This story is decidedly more bizarre than his previous. Poe said he had been in a prison called Moyamensing. There, from his window, he could see a stone tower outside of the jail. On top of the stone, there was a young female figure who cast such a bright light that it illuminated his entire cell. The woman spoke to Poe in slow, clear words. She indicated that if he did not respond to each question she asked, the consequences would be fatal. Poe went on with his story. After conversing with the woman, she took Poe for a stroll around the prison, eventually arriving at a cauldron which contained, quote, boiling spirits. The woman invited him to drink and he declined, telling Sartan that the drink would have been fatally poisonous. Finally, the woman and her boiling spirits produced Poe's beloved Aunt Clem. Poe told Sartan that he was forced to watch the spirits, quote, saw off her feet, then her legs at the knee, her thighs at the hips, and so destroy her piecemeal, all to torture me. Sartan said that as he recounted the tale, Poe spun off into physical convulsions. Worried by Poe's decreasingly stable state, Sartan took Poe back to his home for rest. Unbeknownst to Sartan, Poe had recently been in prison at Moyamensing for drunkenness. Today, scholars believe that in his frenzied state, Poe was combining some amount of hazy memory and hallucination. After a couple of days of rest and some time in nature, Poe seemed recovered in full. Poe even agreed that he had hallucinated his tales. Sartan wrote, regular meals and rest had had good effect, but his mind was not yet free from the nightmare. After an hour or two, he returned, and then he told me that he had arrived at the conclusion that what I said was true, that the whole thing had been a delusion and a scare created out of his own excited imagination. He said that his mind began to clear as he lay on the grass, his face buried in it, and his nostrils inhaling its sweet fragrance mingled with the odor of the earth. The words he had heard kept running through his mind, but somehow he tried in vain to connect them with who spoke them, and thus his thoughts gradually awakened into rational order, and he saw that he came out of a dream.
No, you're right, it is. The 15th is when I moved.
So Sartan lent Poe some necessities and bid farewell to his friend. Sartan's accounts are generally accepted as true by Poe historians. John Sartan had no real motive to lie. He was a successful man with a full life and had no desire to profit from Poe's condition or impending death. Even in Sartan's accounts, he admits to occasional lapses in memory. This certainly lends to his credibility if we can put aside convoluted scenarios of reverse psychology. Sartan would go on to recount these events in 3 publications. The accounts have some differences between them, but Sartan's tale remains the only remotely reliable account of Poe's final months. Historians are uncertain how or why Poe ended up at Sartan's doorstep. Like most things in Poe's life, there are an endless array of theories and proposed timelines. But we can say for sure that when Poe left Sartan, he was in good spirits. These good spirits crumbled rather quickly, as they often did within Poe's lifetime. Poe did not get on a train to New York or Baltimore, as Sartan had anticipated. Instead, he remained in Philadelphia and began to dwell on death. Days after leaving Sartan, he wrote to his mother-in-law, I have been so ill, have had the cholera or spasms quite as bad, and can now hardly hold the pen. It is no use to reason with me now. I must die. Here Poe proclaims to have cholera. This could be a clue to many things, including his upcoming death. But in recent years, scientific testing on Poe's body indicated 2 facts. He never truly had cholera, but he was treated for it. This treatment, rather than the disease, then may provide us with information about his death. But for now, we should continue with the tale of his final days. You see, we have only begun to unravel this whole mystery. So, putting aside his faulty cholera diagnosis, we can explore the idea that the hallucinations he described to Sartan were due to delirium tremens, a condition brought on by alcohol withdrawals. It's an easy assumption to make. Poe had lifelong struggles with alcohol. He also had the symptoms of confusion, agitation, and hallucinations caused by DT. But these could be the symptoms of many conditions, and we don't know if Poe displayed other hallmarks of DT, those like temperature elevation, tremors, increased heart rate, and heavy sweating. We also do not know if, during this period of his life, Poe was drinking enough to cause DT upon abstaining. Furthermore, these sorts of withdrawal symptoms usually begin 2 to 4 days after the final drink of alcohol. But Poe was put in prison for drunkenness, and it seems his hallucinations occurred immediately. In any case, Poe fell into despondence in Philadelphia. He was paranoid, depressed, and very recently hallucinating. Now, having left Sartans, he was also homeless. Poe asked his friend George Lippard for a loan. Lippard himself was broke, but he was a great admirer of Poe's work, so Lippard wanted earnestly to help. Eventually, Lippard was able to find aid from a Reverend Burr. Lippard and Burr procured Poe a train ticket and accompanied him to the platform in Philadelphia. Lippard noted, "He held our hand for a long time and seemed loath to leave us. There was in his Check out the Horses store at www.horses.land. F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel, The Great Gatsby, is an evisceration of the American spirit. In ways both subtle and blatant, Fitzgerald ridiculed the American dream, positioning a knife at its very heart. For the author, American society had decayed into chaotic materialism, and the country had taken this American dream with it. The events of the story are remarkable, seething with Fitzgerald's distaste at the country around him. Every character in The Great Gatsby is truly deplorable, and the worst of them escape entirely unscathed. In authoring this brief 200-page novella, Fitzgerald reflected on the America of his age and predicted the America to come. The book is rife with false prophets, but it is Fitzgerald himself who emerges as the true psychic. By contemplating The Great Gatsby and its context, we can discover uncomfortable truths about the past and present of America and the American dream.
They're so exciting.
Of course, before we see how Fitzgerald dismantled it, we would do well to identify the American dream itself. This term, the American dream, was not actually coined until the early 1930s, about 7 years after Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby. But the myth, the narrative, had existed for centuries without such a tidy name. The American dream is said to be the greatest dream for the individual. It tells us that even those born at the bottom may rise up to the pinnacle of society. They can own a house, impact the nation, and move mountains. This is usually achieved through some combination of tenacity, talent, optimism, and grit. For Fitzgerald, this had all decayed into a propaganda. It was a former truth, long distorted by the realities of American society. To come to his conclusion, Fitzgerald simply examined the world around him. Now, Fitzgerald was not a philosopher or a social critic. He was a writer of fiction. So rarely has he expressed this disdain in a pointed, non-fictional way. But if we examine the cultural climate of his time and the works Fitzgerald studied, we can see how the author reached his rather pessimistic conclusion. Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby in the early 1920s at a time of economic revolution in America. After the First World War, the U.S. economy fell into a depression. Unemployment rose to nearly 12% in 1921. The price of crops surged to problematic, unattainable highs. But these economic woes swiftly turned around. Unemployment dropped to 2.4% by 1923. The nation's GDP increased by 40%. Annual income per capita surged by 30%. The scholar Robert A. Devine has said, "The American people by the 1920s enjoyed the highest standard of living of any nation on earth." In the early 20s, the American economy grew by 7% per year, with the country responsible for 50% of the world's industrial output. Amidst times like these, the American dream was as alive as ever, but Fitzgerald and his contemporaries perceived danger. The author Oswald Spengler published a book called The Decline of the West in 2 volumes from 1918 to 1923. Read today, the book is massive, confounding, and provocative to the point of being self-indulgent. It is at best a bore, and at worst vaguely racist. But it was a product of its time, and indeed it became one of the most influential works in the era. Fitzgerald once wrote in a letter, "I read Spengler the same summer I was writing The Great Gatsby, and I don't think I ever quite recovered from him." We cannot say with certainty which portions of the book resonated so intensely with Fitzgerald, but the overall narrative of Western decomposition sits at the heart of The Great Gatsby. Spengler wrote, "As soon as the market has become the town, it is no longer a question of mere centers for streams of goods traversing a purely peasant landscape, but of a second world within the walls. The true urban man is not a producer. He has not the inward linkage with soil or with the goods that pass through his hands. He does not live with these, but looks at them from outside and appraises them in relation to his own life upkeep. In place of thinking in goods, we have thinking in money." This idea of thinking in money is crucial to The Great Gatsby, but it is like the clothing the book wears. At the soul of Fitzgerald's novel, we have a more profound disillusionment with the American dream. With that in mind, it is time to begin our investigation in earnest. Narrated by a man named Nick Carraway, The Great Gatsby follows its titular character,
You're so sweet, thank you.
Creepers are here! Armor Giant! Suicide General! Watch out!
Yeah, if they don't take the role seriously, they're gonna get demoted.
I saw, I'm reading it. You're very tyrannical.
Tyrannical? People gotta do their jobs. I give them roles and I expect them to do the role. If they don't want the role, then they don't keep it. Pretty simple, right, Kayla? What do you say? It's not tyrannical. I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. I can't hear you.
Yes, you can.
Oh, I can hear you.
Silly goose. Wait, go like this. La 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 la.
This coffee doesn't taste great.
It does?
Not. Taste it. This doesn't taste like coffee.
I don't want to.
Can I taste yours?
Sure.
This is really bad. I'm gonna throw it away. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Yours just has more sugar. It's still bad. It's like really watery. It tastes like real coffee.
Oh, maybe
Sorry, but I really appreciate the effort you put into it, but it was the machine's fault. And not your fault, babe. Art thou ready, my darling? Yes. You're in game. Vulcan.
I can drag you around.
Yeah, and if you want to keep doing that, you're gonna lose the privilege, Kayla. I will ban you from this server if you don't want to take it seriously.
I'm the cream queen, what do you mean?
You're not Kumgar.
I am on the same as you.
How many kings have had many wives, and how many queens have had many husbands, huh? Huh? I said, I think King Louis the VIII had about 18 wives, and he killed them when they started talking a little too much. And and started not paying attention to their queenly responsibilities.
And what is my queenly responsibility?
Yeah, what?
What is my queenly responsibility?
Not to fuck around. It's pretty simple.
I can fuck around. Fuck around, not fuck around.
Blocked.
Fuck around. I fuck around.
Why are you so weird?
What do I do? Which one?
Well, I'm gonna start a new campaign.
Which one do I click?
What do you mean? Vulcan is probably gonna be better at graphics. Okay, you should be able to join my lobby. Zombie Army Dead War 4. Yes.
Wait, talk.
Why?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Goodbye. Don't be a little dingle schmingle.
That's what I thought.
I want to make sure that I can hear you. I'm only working with like an ear and a quarter here. Shit, dog. It's tough out here. Can I like make a character or anything? Like what is it? What am I doing? Where do I go?
What do you mean?
There we go. Let them access my microphone? No.
Why not?
We use Discord. I don't like in-game audio. That shit sounds horrible.
Sorry. It kicked me out.
Wow.
Wow, what? Just crap.
God, why is it so quiet? Hold on.
Me?
Yeah, here we go.
Probably
Wait.
because you mute me all the time.
I don't. I just have to adjust it because when you play horror games and you're screaming in my ear, I turn you down to like 60.
Maybe there's a reason
Reason for what?
that I scream when I play horror games.
Yeah, because you get jump scared. That's totally valid. It's just it hurts my ear that I can hear from is really sensitive.
Kill a suicider with his own explosives. Fuck around, I fuck around. I fuck around, fuck around, I fuck around, fuck around. I don't know why my game isn't displaying. Doesn't let me stream this game. I can't stream it.